Once upon a time in a quiet courtroom on a rainy Tuesday, my perfectly predictable life, was flipped upside down by 5 words I never expected to hear. "You're my dad, Your Honor." It was a case like any other. A minor custody hearing. Nothing headline-worthy. The kind of hearing that wraps up before your coffee gets cold. I was presiding over it with my usual poise, balancing the weight of justice in my gavel-worn hands. The girl on the witness stand was just 16, nervous, clutching a frayed backpack like it held her world. But then she looked straight at me and said it, "You're my dad." My heart stalled, my mouth went dry, and the entire courtroom fell into a hush so deep, you could hear the clock above my bench ticking like a time bomb. Of course, everyone thought it was a joke, a courtroom stunt. The bailiff even smirked. But I wasn't laughing, because something in her eyes, something hauntingly familiar, told me it wasn't a mistake. And in that moment, a new case began. Not the one in front of me, but one buried in the past. One I had no idea I'd be judged for. So I smiled, the way a judge does when they've just been handed a verdict of their own. Because while everyone else saw a scandal, I saw a mystery. And I was going to find the truth, even if it meant putting my own life on trial. It started months before that hearing, in the neighborhood where everyone smiles too wide and watches too closely. I had just moved into the suburban dream. Quiet cul-de-sac, white fence, dog named Max. Retirement was creeping up, and I figured I'd finally earned a life with no surprises. Then came the new neighbors, loud, entitled, and always watching. The woman, Karen, yes, actually Karen, wasted no time asserting dominance. She ran the HOA like a dictator with a clipboard. If your grass grew half an inch over regulation height, you got a letter. Park your car slightly, asked, $75 fine. Her husband, Ted, was no better. He wore sunglasses even at dusk and called himself a community enforcer. His favorite pastime? Peering over fences like a mall cop in a Tom Clancy novel. First, I laughed it off. I'm a judge, after all. I've dealt with worse than power-hungry neighbors. But then came the notes. Anonymous, of course. Your dog barks too loud. Your porch light is too bright. Your guests park like criminals. And then one morning, I found a warning taped to my door. Respect HOA rules or will escalate. I chuckled. That was cute. But they weren't kidding. Started with my mailbox. Broken clean off the post. Then came the sprinklers. Tampered with until my lawn turned brown in perfect rectangular patches. Fines arrived like clockwork. Each one more absurd than the last. Violation. Wind chimes audible from sidewalk. The final straw? They tried to get me evicted for ongoing hostility. Imagine the irony, me evicted by Karen's kangaroo court. But here's the thing. I've made a career out of watching people hang themselves with their own rope. And Karen? She was already tugging hard. I began documenting everything. Dates, times, photos. I attended every HOA meeting, silent and smiling, while recording every ridiculous rule change they pushed through. Then, one night, I saw it, Ted arguing with a girl on their porch. Her backpack was familiar. Her face was even more so. The girl from the courtroom. That's when it clicked. This wasn't just about fines or fences. This was personal. I dug deeper. With some very quiet help from a friend at Child Services, I learned that girl Emma had been in and out of foster care. Her last listed guardian? Ted. Suddenly all the weirdness made sense. The overcompensation. The surveillance. They weren't just bad neighbors, they were hiding something. So I did what I do best. I prepared the case. I subpoenaed HOA financial records. I interviewed former neighbors. I found enough dirt to bury their whole board under 10 feet of HOA violations. But most of all, I found Emma again. We talked. We cried. She showed me an old picture, her mother with a younger me back when I was in law school. And a birth certificate. No father listed. But the dates lined up. The face didn't lie. And neither did the DNA test. So I filed for temporary guardianship. The final HOA meeting of the year was also the final judgment for Karen and Ted. I presented everything, the harassment, the misused funds, the abuse allegations. And when Emma stood next to me and called me Dad, the silence in that room was the sweetest justice I've ever tasted. Karen resigned. Ted was escorted out. The neighborhood voted to dissolve the HOA entirely. Max peed on their roses. Poetic justice. Yeah? Emma lives with me. We're figuring it out one day at a time. She paints. I read her old case files like bedtime stories. She's safe now. And me? Well, I'm not just a judge anymore. I'm a dad. Some verdicts come from the heart. If you stayed till the end, comment justice served and tell me what would you have done if a stranger looked you in the eyes and said, "You're my dad." Because sometimes the truth comes disguised as chaos. And sometimes chaos gives you family. Subscribe for more insane stories.